What's going on, 49er Faithful? It's Peter Lucas. This is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. And I've got with me today, I've got TL and Moriah, and they are the 49Faithfullee podcast collectively. But I got both of you guys. I'm so happy to have both of you here today. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on YouTube and the socials and all that good stuff?
Go for it.
All right. So I'm not a big social media person, as I've always mentioned. I only have a Twitter, and my Twitter handle is right here on the screen, TL49erMagic_23. And you can find Moriah and I both on 49Faithfullee podcast on YouTube, and I think you also do it on Facebook too, right, Moriah? Yeah, other than that, that's pretty much where you can find us. Mariah's just like me, she's not a real social media person. So, yeah, so her Twitter handle's right there on the screen as well. So,
I've seen Moriah more and more on Twitter, though. Like, she's trying to put herself out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I'm happy to have you guys today. You guys have a great show, and I try to watch it religiously. And I know a lot of people like you guys are building a great following. So like I want to make sure we give you guys kudos and make sure everybody out there that's listening and watching to make sure you go subscribe to their channel also, and as well as following them. Their Twitter handles are both in the description of the show. So make sure you guys go check out their content. Like I said, I appreciate having you guys on. But let's start with training camp has been going on for a full week and a half. Now the guys had today off. And there's so many reports coming out from training camp, like a lot of video, a lot of talk. There's conflicting reports everywhere, but most of them have kind of reiterated the same premise, which is Trey is the guy at this point. We all know he's the guy. I think we knew it a long time ago, but Kyle and Lynch really reinforcing that point, and finally basically saying that Jimmy is on the trading block has really reinforced all of that. Now we can focus on Trey being the main focus of this training camp and getting him better, him getting all the reps, especially with the ones. So do you feel he's shown enough in camp so far to say that? And have you seen any improvements over the last time we saw him? You want to start, TL?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not a bit too worried about what's going on here, because I heard that he's throwing the ball with accuracy deep. You know what I mean? That's something we've missed on this offense for a while. And I feel like those are the harder throws, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because it's all about timing and stuff like that. I think the throws that are underneath, over the middle, stuff like that is stuff that's going to come with time. I'm not really worried about, everybody's talking about the struggles and, he went 8 for 15, but it's like, yeah, he went 8 for 15, but there was also 2 drops in there. So technically he went 10 for 15 in the interception, which, let's get the interceptions out the way now. Logical fans, I mentioned this on Twitter about a week ago, but logical fans like us expect Trey to actually struggle a bit. These people who think they're going to come in here and see Justin Herbert and, Russell Wilson and stuff right off the bat, it's not going to happen. So, I'm still excited. I'm so excited for the kid. And I said this on Real Talk Niner Talk. It's like, I accept for you to struggle, against a team you're familiar with, but I expect for you to destroy a team you're not familiar with. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Team that's familiar with you is going to know, some of the playbook and all this other stuff and some of the plays that are being called. So of course, in training camp, you're not going to look the best. But I'll go back to what I said before. When I look at Trey Lance and I saw how he looked against the Houston Texans, and now with all these camps he's done, OTAs, mini camps, him practicing, setting up these camps on his own, I'm not worried in the least. So yeah, Trey, go ahead and get your struggles out now. Get your struggles out in preseason and get them all cleaned up before game one, week one against the Bears. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's expected. And I just hate that there's so much back and forth and people already saying he's a bust and will Jimmy be on the roster week one, and yada, 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 all this other stuff. So it's just yeah. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm not worried about Trey Lance at all because I feel like he's smarter. He's so smart that he cleans up the mistakes that he makes. So.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Moriah?
Yeah, I'm not worried at all either. Like TL said, this is a time that, they're supposed to be making mistakes. Like, I don't know when it started that people think training camp's like supposed to be a perfect thing. And then it's supposed to be perfect from the offense side and the defense side at the same time somehow. Like this is when they're supposed to be trying things that, like he's supposed to be making throws he probably wouldn't make in regular games, like we know from the past of Trey Lance, like he's not one that makes like risky throws. Like he doesn't make a lot of mistakes when he plays. So like we need him to make those now so he can be confident to make those throws in the game. And yeah, I know we're going to touch on it later, so I won't get into, like the other reasons why he's struggling so much right now. Or I wouldn't even call it him struggling. I'll say the offense struggling. But yeah, I'm not worried about Trey whatsoever.
And Peter, before you go on, let me just say something else too. Yeah. So what people need to understand too, when it goes into training camp, all this stuff like that, the defense is always ahead of the offense because the defense doesn't have to gain any continuity. When it comes to the offense, it's all about precision. It's all about timing and getting chemistry. It's not like on a defense where it's like I have to worry about what the defensive line is doing, if I'm a safety, whatever the case may be. But on the offense, all the offensive line have to have continuity. The receivers and the quarterback have the continuity. So that usually takes time to catch up to what the defense is doing. So that's why I think it's kind of overblown a little bit. And people are like, well, the defense is way better. The offense sucks. It's usually like that 99% of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Moriah said a key point in the fact that it's the offense that's struggling, not necessarily Trey. The offensive line is not giving him any time to throw, from what we're hearing in training camp. So I mean, he's pretty much on the run, like from the moment he snaps the ball. And to his credit, he's still making plays. From all we're hearing, he's still making plays. We hear about the wild throws. Yeah, the percentage isn't great, but he's had drops. And like somebody else made another point earlier today, which we didn't take that into account with Jimmy. Okay, well, Jimmy is not a second year, wasn't a second year starter. Jimmy wasn't going against the defense wasn't as good as it is right now. We didn't have a Travarius Ward on the other side. And while Jason Verrett is a really good corner, I just think the physicalness of the style, they're really concentrating on that press man style with DeMeco Ryans this year, which I think is really giving the defensive line a chance to get that pressure on the quarterback. And it's just a different look. It's a different style. They're not playing 5 yards off anymore. So it's just a different look, different style. Trey's he's going to have to get used to that. I don't know many teams, honestly, that are going to play press man the whole time. There's not many. So I think he's going to see completely different defenses, and I think as good as our defense is, it's going to be a breath of fresh air when he actually gets to go up against another team that isn't as stacked as our defense is. But yeah, it's I'm not worried in the least. The kid is young. He's shown already that without a full offseason and minicamp and OTAs, that he could make plays with minimal preparation, like the Texans game, as you were mentioning earlier. So, I mean, he's got to learn. He's got to learn to get to be able to what he's capable of, like where he can fit those throws in. And I think Fred Warner is doing him a service to basically tell him, hey, this is the time when you should be trying all that stuff out. And to Moriah's point, it's like, yeah, get all that stuff and TL, like to get all the interceptions and that stuff out right now. But so Trey, like we talked about, Trey struggled with the completion percentage in camp after having a great first day. First day, I mean, there was no pads, but he had a great first day with the completion percentage. How much of it do you think is the defense, and how much of it is inexperience? I'll let you go this time, Moriah.
Yeah, I think a lot is the defense. I think we're going to have a top probably 3 defense in the league. So yeah, a huge part of it's the defense, and like TL had brought up, the defense always starts out faster than the offense. If you look around the league, 30, probably 29 other teams are having the same problem right now. Like I've followed tons of football teams, and a lot of their quarterbacks, the fan base is, oh, they're struggling. They're going 1 for 9 or whatever the hell. Like this is to be expected, and even more so when it's a top 3 defense. And even like Trent Williams touched on it, like the defense knows every play that they're about to run.
Exactly.
So I mean, if you can't stop a play when you know exactly what's about to happen, then there's probably an issue there on the other side.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just before you go, TF.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, hey, Roscoe's like, you should have asked. Like, eventually I was gonna have 3 people. Like, but yeah, you can get me one for that too. I'll hit you up next month for that. But go ahead, TL.
Yeah, no, I think Moriah made some great points. It's all about, this defense are looking good. And like Trent Williams alluded to, like the defense knows everything that's being called. So that's why people are kind of freaking out. Oh, why he's throwing his interceptions? Why these DBs in great position? Because they kind of know what's going on. So, I think that Kyle's probably not really showing his hand a little bit either, because I've heard from Rohan and a couple other people that's been at camp that we haven't even seen any 4 wide receiver sets yet. So there's some stuff that, Kyle's kind of just keeping it very vanilla and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not really worried about what's going on. I mean, we see that Trey keeps his composure in game time situations. So yeah, and I think once, I feel like, and I know we're going to talk about this later, but I think a lot of it too is like Trey really hasn't had a full offensive line in front of him yet, who he's really going to be working with, for the first team reps. So I think that's a lot of musical chairs going on right now, and putting different people in. You know what I mean? As far as like Daniel Brunskill, Jake Brendo, we're playing musical chairs with this offensive line right now. So I think that's kind of happening with the struggles that Trey's having as well. So
yeah, for sure. Like I just think that like Moriah said earlier, like we're talking about top at least top 5 defense.
And, for sure.
And it's just like what second year quarterback is having to deal with a stacked roster like Trey is. Like, I mean, there is no second year quarterback. That usually, if you're a second year quarterback and you're starting, it's because your team is terrible. So he's had it's a gift and a curse, because he's got tons of weapons, but he's also got a stacked defense to go up against in practice. But I feel like it's just going to make him better, and it probably is a little bit of inexperience. But like, once again, this is what's going to make him better. It's like you're not going to get better going up against bad defenses. So then you got to wait for the games to get better, and I think this is the time for him to get. I think who was it to put on there? Like put a video, iron sharpening iron.
Iron sharpens iron, yeah. Hey, just real quick, Peter, I'm agreeing with Roscoe here. Your mic is kind of going in and out a little bit.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Hold on. There's going to be a little bit of echo if I switch. So. That's
I see you, Roscoe,
Am I now?
representing USC. No, it sounded clear right now. Keep talking.
Okay.
Say something
You can
else.
hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah, it switched for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
it sounds good
But
now.
anyway, appreciate you, Roscoe. Yeah, I see Trey in here and 49 throwback. And then and highly favored.
Highly
Thank you
favored.
guys for showing up. I really appreciate you. But yeah, it all comes just down to Trey getting better, and like we just want to see him get better. And the only way he's going to do that is with reps. And the best defense, when he's going up against a really good defense, it's just going to him better at the end of the day. But let's move on to that offensive line that we were talking about, and by all reports they struggled so far. But to TL's point, that's because they've been playing musical chairs with the center position and the interior offensive line, especially. And I think the first couple of days, Trent Williams and McGlinchey weren't even starting. So like that kind of contributes to Trey not really feeling comfortable in the pocket. So who do you think? First off, we'll start off with who do you think gets the job at center? Because Brunskill really kind of the last couple of days we've heard a lot of good things about Brunskill when he's in there. I haven't really heard too much about Brendel in the last couple of days, but it seems like Brunskill is kind of making moves to get to that first spot. Like who do you think wins that job, Skill?
I think ultimately it'll be Jake Brendel. Um, I heard that Daniel Brunskill's losing pretty much every rep. And we saw what he did at center in 2020. And I'm not saying that people can't get better because it was 2 years ago, but I truly believe that Jake Brendel will win it. He has the most snaps with Trey. I think ultimately Daniel Brunstill's probably going to be like a backup. I don't even know if he's going to start. Because I've just been hearing so many good things about Spencer Burford. People need to understand too with Burford. He was a 4-star recruit. He was a beast coming out of high school, but he just decided to stay at home, and go to the University of Texas San Antonio. So he could have went to another major college. He could have went, to Texas, Texas A&M, wherever the case may be. But he wanted to stay home and do his thing. So, it's going to be interesting what's going on. I think center. It's going to be tough. I'm not at this moment. I'm not really too high on what's going on with the offensive line, and we've all said it on Spaces. We've said it, on Twitter, wherever the case may be, that people are going to have to take their lumps and stuff like that. And I'm cool with that, but like I said on Moriah and I show, it's cool if you have people taking their lumps, but when you have your offensive line taking their lumps along with the second-year quarterback taking lumps, that's usually not a recipe for success. However, we still have a few weeks. First real game's not till September 11th, so we have some time. We have a full month, but I hope by preseason game 2 that we solidify the starters on this offensive line, and then we go forward from there so they can get some continuities, so Trey can get whoever he needs to have his reps with that center and not playing his musical chair stuff. So yeah, Jalen Moore has been struggling. Aaron Banks is kind of hit and miss. I think the only ones that we can really be sure of right now is probably Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams, but the interior to me right now today is bothering me, and I just hope we clean that up ASAP.
What about you, Moriah?
Yeah, I'm going with Jake Brendel as well, for everything that TL just said. I don't want Brunskill personally starting anywhere. And I hope that he doesn't. Like, he's fine, I guess, as a backup because he can back up, every position. And I agree. I hate what they're doing right now with the offensive line. Like, at first it seemed like they were having Brendel start one day, Brunskill start the next day. Now I heard that they're having them like in for plays and then pulling them, having the next one in for some plays, pulling that one, having the next, it's like the offensive line's never going to get in any kind of rhythm like that. And so I hope they make a decision fast and let, whoever it is, pick them, deal with it and let them get some work in there.
Yeah, for sure. And now I did hear that Aaron Banks has looked good, on his left side. Burford, they said, is coming on to the point to where he's almost solidified that right guard spot. I think that he's going to end up, from what I'm hearing, I think that he's going to end. Those two are going to be entrenched we're really just figuring out what's going to happen with the center spot. And I'm just like you guys. I was, especially as soon as the season ended, and we were constantly wondering what they were going to do at the center spot. I was saying over and over, I was like, it can't be Brunskill. It cannot be Brunskill. We've seen that. We've seen that movie before. We don't want to see it again. And like I hope it's Brendel, but I'm more inclined to think that Tor, like after they see what it is on the first first preseason game, they may be in the market for somebody. They may try to put a band-aid on it somehow, some way. And I don't know what that band-aid is going to look like, but it's but Treader's still out there, who a lot of people are saying we don't really want Treader because he doesn't practice, and Trey needs somebody that he can practice with. But at this point, we just need somebody serviceable. But what I will say about the interior offensive line is that they have, from all reports, they've looked good in the running game. There's been a couple of running backs that have looked really good behind the offensive line. So maybe it really is just a pass. They've got to get cohesion in the pass blocking game. I don't know. So we'll see. But if they're still struggling by preseason, do you think they bring somebody else in, and really why didn't they in the first place? Like that's really what it comes down to. So what do you think, Moriah? Why wouldn't they just plug the hole?
Yeah, that's same question I keep asking everybody. I wish I knew. It doesn't make any sense that they didn't address it. That's what pisses me off the most is that they knew from the jump that Mac wasn't coming back, that he was going to retire. They knew that before the draft and still didn't bother addressing the center position until picking up an undrafted guy. So I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy that, the center position had been so important to Kyle up until this point. And yet now you have basically a rookie quarterback starting. And then now all of a sudden the center position doesn't matter. So yeah, that's kind of crazy. I think that, I'm one of the ones that I wouldn't bring in Treader for that same reason, that he doesn't practice. And how's, Lance, that's the problem that we're complaining about right now. Lance, can't get normal work in with somebody during practice so that they can build, that cohesion together. So,
Absolutely.
That wouldn't solve the problems either.
Yeah. I've been preaching this even since free agency. When March came and I knew there wasn't a chance to sign Tomlinson back, and then the fact that Alex Mack was up in the air, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm smarter than John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, but I did play football, and I know for a fact, playing fullback, I was a fullback. I know for a fact that when your offensive line ain't right, your offense ain't right. I don't care how many stars you have as your weapons. I don't care what you got going on, an elite quarterback. If your offensive line is not right, then the whole offense is just not in sync, man. So, when after that happened, and I knew there was a chance Thomason wasn't gone, I was like, man, we need to address this offensive line because I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna say that Kyle and them, have made a bad decision because we haven't seen if I start seeing struggles week 1, week 2, week 3, stuff like that, and I'm just like, okay, there's an issue. But what I will say is, you have a quarterback who's going to take his lumps going into year 2, year 2, but first year as a starter. You need to set him up with success, especially because he's your franchise quarterback. Yeah. So the simple fact is you give Jimmy 3 Pro Bowlers, 8-year vet, 3 Pro Bowlers, and Trent Williams, Tomlinson, and Alex Mack. They leave, and all of a sudden you're throwing in these nobodies, and this is no disrespect. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying nobody as far as you don't know what they can do on the field. You're depending on a 29-year-old Jake Brendel who hasn't even started any games. Then you're looking at a second-year guy in Aaron Banks, who, like I said, do they need to take their lumps? Yes. But when you have three linemen possibly taking lumps as well as your quarterback, I just don't know how I feel about that, man. That's a lot of lumps taken for an offense that it has amazing weapons, great run game, stuff like that. So I think that's what it is. I think a couple people on here, like me, highly favored, been talking about it in spaces, stuff like that. And even for months, and you guys all know who Kevin is on Space.
Yeah,
it's like we've all been talking about this, and people kept telling us y'all need to be patient. Well, I'm not going to be patient when our franchise quarterback is possibly in for for a rude awakening and can't have no protection. Like for me to every day here, well, Trey's been looking good. He's doing okay, but every snap he's running for his life, that's not cool to me. He's your franchise quarterback that you swapped a draft pick for and traded 2 firsts. You need to set him up for success. And I don't feel this offensive line is good enough as of now that's setting him up for success, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think, and when I had you on my show, I think we talked about the center spot and like in the offseason, and we were all kind of waiting to see, what they were going to do, because I think if they didn't know that Alex Smith was retiring, I could understand, like where we're at right now, because you don't want to sign someone and pay them when you still have Alex Mack. I get that, but at the same time, if you knew that Alex Mack was going to retire, you had a good idea that Alex Mack was retiring, that looks really bad, in my opinion. Because here we are, us as fans could tell that this would be an issue, that it was going to be an issue. Anybody that watched football for any amount of time would be able to tell you that this was going to be an issue when you've got guys that aren't used to starting in that position, and you have no viable plan as to how that's going to work out, especially when your offense, like you were talking about earlier, Moriah, that Kyle trusts in his center. He puts so much trust into his center to be with that zone read scheme. It's just it's a little frustrating. I'm going to be honest. It's a little frustrating, but at the same time, that I'm hoping that they have a plan or that they can pivot. They don't seem to be worried about it when they talk about it. Kyle doesn't seem to be worried at all. And it's I think we're worried until we see what the product on the field. I think that we won't be, by the time we see it on the field, that's the only time that we're going to not be worried about the situation. I hope Rendell works out. I hope that he ends up, because he did look good on the second team last season in preseason, but I don't know. I don't know, because we haven't seen him against the ones. So, but we'll have to wait and see. It's coming up soon. So let's move on to a more happier subject, which is like my favorite part of this team. The D-line they've been dominant so far in training camp. I know it's training camp, but I just love hearing how disruptive they've been and how good they've all looked. And they've been putting pressure on all 3 quarterbacks. Over under 50 sacks for this season for them. And who do you think has the breakout season? Let's start with UTL.
50 sacks. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I'm going to say yeah. And this is what me thinking that Nick Boles is going to get about 15. I think, and the reason why I say 15 is because I feel like somebody in that Leo position is going to step up. I feel like somebody like Ture is going to have like 10 sacks, and of course, we'll have some linebacker blitzes and stuff like that. What this, and I know it's not a 3-4 defense, like it was with Baltimore Ravens. But do you guys remember when Ray Lewis, I think he lost Tony Siragusa or somebody up over the middle, and he was complaining that he couldn't roam free and do his job.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went and signed like a big nose tackle. I feel like this is this defense, because all I keep hearing is like the linebackers are not even being touched. Yeah. So the fact that this line is keeping everybody off of them is going to make Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and Aziz just fly all over the field. So
you saw how big Kinlaw looked.
Oh yeah. So
Kinlaw's a monster.
Yeah, I expect a lot of sacks, but I feel like our sacks are going to be kind of well-rounded. I feel like, you'll get like 6 from Armstead. You'll get like 15 to 17 from Boza. You'll get like maybe 8 from Hyder, another 8 from Ebelcom. So I feel like we're going to have a rotation to where it looks kind of nice. And maybe even like 3 or 4 from Kinlaw. Depends, what's going on. So yeah, I feel like 50 sacks wouldn't be out of this world, I guess you can say, for this defense. but I'm excited. And then the fact that they're talking about Drake Jackson, talking about him being inside and outside. So they said they want to use him in the Arden Key type role where he's, like on third downs, they use that NASCAR package and have all of our speed rushers on the field. So if he's inside like Arden Key, and I feel like he's more talented than Arden Key, you know what I mean? So the fact that they
quick thing on Drake Jackson.
Yeah.
Is it just me but this goes for both of you. Is it just me or does that guy have the biggest shoulders like that I've ever seen? Like it seems like he has no neck and he's like all shoulders.
Yeah, he's huge. Kind of reminds me of Tequila Spikes. Remember Tequila Spikes?
Yeah,
big old neck that went up to like the yeah. He's huge, man. Yeah,
Spikes really has no neck.
Oh, Spikes that dude was a beast. Yeah. So as far as his defense, I do think that 50 sacks, his defense is looking amazing. That D line, I'm so excited for it. As far as everybody keeps asking this question: Is our defense now better than 2019? On paper, it's looking like it, but as a D line, as for starters, it's probably not as good with the healthy D Ford and Armstead and Buckner, all that. But as a whole, this D line is stacked. I just hope that we stay healthy. I know we've lost some players here and there, like Hassan Ridgeway got hurt. Eric Armstead's been out for a few games, and we lost Maurice Hurst. But man, we're still stacked. So yeah, I'm so excited for this defensive line. I just want somebody to step up opposite of Boza and create constant pressure. You know what I mean? I heard that Teran is looking amazing. Him and Ebel Khan are standing out right now as the Leos. So yeah, I can't wait, man. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. And what about you, Moriah?
Yeah, I'm gonna say they're gonna go over. And I'm actually expecting Bosa to have over 20 sacks. So that would leave 30, for the rest of the D line to be able to come up with. And, kind of like T.O. was saying that, somebody needs to step up on the other side, which, I'm so glad that we finally have people that maybe can fill that role, not necessarily be D Ford, but D Ford's role over there. That'll actually take some of the pressure, like, Bosa won't have so many double teams and so many, of all the focus won't be on Bosa. So I'm thinking hopefully, he can get some more sacks. And I'm thinking he probably wants to push himself to that since, we talked about this, I think, on Dion's show about just the disrespect that Bosa gets throughout the league. And, it just doesn't seem like, he gets enough credit for everything that he does through being double teamed, being held every single play. So, I'm expecting him to have a monstrous season. I'm actually going to say Teran is going to be my breakout player on the defensive line. And Sosa is having a great camp, but I'm having him as my trade candidate still. I've said this from the very beginning before we even started training camp, just for the fact that, we have so much depth across that line. And with as much money as he's making, I just think that, we can trade him and have other guys doing what he's doing for $1 million instead of $6 million.
Yeah.
You've been very consistent with that. You've been very consistent with the Ebelcom talk as far as like, and I agree with that. Like I have him making the final 53-man roster. I have him on the team. Mariah's right. If you got Hyder, Jordan Willis, and Teran all looking pretty similar, you know what I mean? And Ebelcom looking similar. It's like, well, am I going to keep Teran for $1.5 million and get 8 sacks, or am I keeping Ebelcom for $6.5 million and getting 8 sacks? So I can agree with what you're saying on that, Moriah. Somebody said I hate you, Moriah.
I just don't think that you can go wrong. Like, and to Mariah's point, why would you pay somebody $6 million unless the 49ers don't like to, in my mind, they don't like to just when they invest in someone, they like to follow through. Like, and I mean, you saw with D Ford, you saw with Richburg, you saw with guys that didn't necessarily have the production that they wanted out of their money. But if they invest enough, like they invested in Ebicom, and I feel like that they want to see that through. The kid looks ripped. Like, I mean, he is shredded. But like you said, if you can get equal production out of the Terrays and out of Drake Jackson, and as good as they've said Drake Jackson looks in camp, I mean, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time, and $6 million is an expensive backup, like or an expensive rotational guy. So
Yeah.
but I think that this defensive line is going to be unstoppable. Yeah, like Ridgeway got dinged up, but they said he's going to be back.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate about Maurice Hurst, but I mean, honestly, we haven't seen anything from that guy like since we brought him over. So like, it's not actually like we're actually missing anything if that makes sense. And then you've got, and then of course Eric Armstead got dinged up a little bit, but I think that they're keeping him out as a more precautionary. I think that this team has learned from their past mistakes around injuries, and they're not going to push anything, especially not in the preseason. So it is. We probably won't see Armstead again until week 1. And yeah, I just think that the sky's the limit for this defensive line. Somebody mentioned in the chat Menahu, and I think that's a guy that's frequently forgotten in the mix because all the guys that they have on this offensive line or in the defensive line is they are capable of being on the outside and even sliding in on the inside on passing downs. And it's just going to be incredible to see this in motion when they get those third and longs, and you've got Travarius Ward and E-Man able to play press on the outside. It's going to be, yeah, it's just going to be a race to the quarterback, I feel. And like you said, Moriah, I agree with you about the 20 sacks. Like, I think I have, I'm over on 50. I'm definitely going over on 50 sacks. I think that they may set a record this season, barring serious injuries and all that stuff. But I think if this team can stay as healthy as they did last season, I think that they may go for over 50 sacks. Because they remember last year they started slow. They started really slow, and they really came on towards the second half. And I don't think that they're going to start off slow this season. So that's the way I kind of look at the defensive line. I think that they're my favorite part of the team, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're actually capable of. And how soon do you think Drake Jackson like gets into that, like gets to be starting? Do you think he starts the season eventually?
I don't think he starts, in my opinion. I think he'll be a rotational guy on third down for the most part, and if he does start, I think it'll be really late, like maybe like week 11, 12, something like that. But I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of these dudes who are hungry, who are ahead of him, like Hyder and Turay and Ebocom and stuff like that. And I think they're just a little bit more acclimated with the system, and they're all on 1-year deals right now. If you think about it, Ebocom has 1 year left. Turay only got signed for a year. Hyder got signed for a year. So they're going to be looking to get another contract. So, I think with Jackson, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him just being a third down situational piece or just, popping in maybe 4 or 5 times a game just to get people breathing and stuff like that, to get him acclimated, get him a little bit more stronger, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, obviously I could be wrong, but when you got guys who are veterans who are also ahead of you, who are looking out for their pockets too, you know what I mean? It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough for me to see him beat out and get more snaps than all 3 of those guys, to be honest. Because like you said, Turay's been looking lights out. I've been hearing nothing but good things about him and Ebocom. Hyder, it's kind of like hit and miss, and you got Charles and Menahu, which I think be more of an inside piece this year, especially with Hurst being gone. He's big. I call him Eric Armstead light because he's versatile. He can play inside and he can play the edge if need be. Stuff like that. So, yeah, this defense, and plus too, I think we're going to see a lot of linebacker blitzes now. If our D line are keeping our linebackers clean, I see like Fred Warner being sent on blitzes. I see Aziz be, stuff like that, because they're both, they're such fast linebackers that I can see D'Amico Ryan's like, look, on third down, so even second, he might be even some prize on first down. You might see him blitz. You know what I mean? Like if this D line is keeping them clean so much. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's I know it's cliche, but it's a great problem to have right now.
Yeah. What do you think, Moriah?
Yeah, I agree about that. He'll be just used as, like on obviously known passing downs to begin. But I'd say probably by let's say midway through the season, I think we'll start seeing him a lot more. It seems like, from all accounts so far, the coaching staff, everybody's really high on him. Everybody's talking him up. Like, you have Bosa coming out and saying, like, of course, I'm one that's under the belief that no player is going to get up there and talk shit about their team, about their teammates. They're all going to say nice stuff, but, you don't have, like, Bosa don't necessarily have to get up there and say, oh, this guy was better than me when I came out. Like, come on now, like, you can say, oh yeah, he looks great, or he has great bend, or, whatever. But for him to say that he's doing things that Bosa wasn't even doing when he came out into the league, I think he'll definitely give those older guys a run for their money.
Yeah, I see it completely. I kind of agree with the both of you, unless I want to see what happens in preseason, because I think he's going to get playing time in preseason.
Yeah.
And if he flashes in preseason, I think that they may accelerate his role, and he may get more snaps early than we think. Like Kyle normally doesn't like to play rookies unless he absolutely has to. But I think talent is talent. And I think he's shown also that he's not going to stop talent. Like Elijah Mitchell last year was talented, and that's why he showed out, and that was the guy that Kyle felt the most comfortable with. So I just think that you never know what Kyle's going to do. Like you never know what DeMeco Ryans like. Honestly, you don't know some of those packages they put out last season on defense. I don't know how they work. I still don't know how they work in coverage, but D'Amico finds ways to get guys involved and gets guys involved early. So it's entirely possible. But like I said, the way I think of it is that it might happen down the road. But if he shows out in preseason, like that, it might happen. Who knows?
Oh, Peter, and I think before we move on, I think you hit the nail on the head as far as, like you said, this defense started off so slow last year. I think that DeMeco Ryans started getting into a groove where he's just like, okay, I start finding the best fit for everybody. He moved Eric Armstead inside, and the defense kind of took off. So yeah, I think like you guys were saying, for third downs and stuff, I think that's going to be the bread and butter for Drake Jackson early. So I'm just imagining on third down, you put him inside like they did with Arden Key. So you have a defensive line on third down with Nick Boles on one side, Ibo Kamor Toure at Leo, Drake Jackson and Eric Armstead inside. That's going to be nasty, man. That'll be a nasty third down package for that defensive line.
Yeah, for sure. Like anyway, I could talk about D-line all day. But let's move on to the defensive backfield, who is another. Normally they are honestly, they've been the weak link of our defense, if you could call it that, over the past couple of years. Like even in 2019, we didn't really know what our secondary was going to look like. So it's kind of refreshing this season that they have looked. I mean, especially Mosley and Ward have looked really good. I mean, they really good is kind of an understatement. And it's been frustrating for Trey, I know, but it's really encouraging for the rest of us that we have a guy in there that has looked so like. I mean, even Sherman, when we got Sherman, he was kind of on the downside of his career, and he wasn't as locked down as he had been in the past. Charvarius Ward is in his prime, and that kid is got a mean streak in him, and he is not afraid to use it. Like so, what like how good do you think Mosley is? Do you think that they should lock him up early in contract wise?
Yeah, I believe that they should, but I don't know if him and his agent will go for it. You know what I mean? He was great last year, and he's looking like he can be primed to have another great season this year. So he might just wait and just say, hey, let me play this season out and see what's going on. I see your questions here. You were asking like if the DBs would get over 10 interceptions. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
I say yes. And I say they're going to get that. I me and Moriah were talking on our show, and I said I think even for Jimmy Ward, he's gonna have a career year. He's gonna have like five interceptions, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Emmanuel Mosley playing lights out. He was playing lights out last year as the number one corner because Jason Verrett got hurt so early in week 1. So I think he allowed 1 touchdown, and he was averaging. He was giving the receivers only 30 yards receiving a game. That's unheard of for somebody coming out as an undrafted corner who has worked his way up into what he's been. So, yeah, I have high hopes for our secondary. I want to give a shout out to Tarvarius Moore.
He's looked good.
Yeah, because I had him kind of being traded. Like he wanted kind of like the odd man out, somebody like Chicago calling, to be with Hightower or who knows, whatever the case may be. But he's looking good. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be a hard decision. Odom's been looking okay, obviously. So yeah, our secondary, I have high hopes for him, and I feel like right now they're probably. I know it's early, but I think right now they've been the talked about group, the most talked about group in our defense. Most of the time, where it's D line or whatever the case may be, but our secondary is getting a lot of love right now, and I think it's because too, as you guys know, your secondary is only as good as your pass rush. So, so if the D line are making it easier on them and getting pressure on the quarterback, it's going to make our DBs look even better. So, and that's why I think that's where the interceptions will come in, because people will be throwing up some ducks and trying to force some things or whatever. And that's when I think. So I'm gonna say this for a prediction. I think Jimmy Ward leads us in interceptions, and I know it's funny to say because he's not the interception guy. I don't feel like too many wide receivers are going to try Tarvarius Ward much. I think he's going to be locked down for the most part. So I'm going to have Jimmy Ward with 5. I'm going to have Emmanuel Mosley with like 4. I'm going to have Tarvarius Ward with 4. And I'm going to have Hufanga with 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, what about you, Moriah?
Yeah. I'm actually... I think Mosley's good, and I think he's kind of underrated for what he does, but I think if he has a good season this year, he'll outprice us. I don't think we'll pay him some outrageous contract while paying C Ward, and I think that the young guys on the team, they'll spend the season behind those guys, getting ready to whoever will step up and take Mosley's spot once he's gone. So no, I wouldn't pay him. And I think that I'm counting on those guys to have more. What was it? Over 10? 12?
Yeah, you're looking at 10.
10?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say over 10. Just because I think C Ward plays a huge, like having him back there is going to play a huge part of this, of this defense's success, and having that lockdown guy finally. Like, I know we had Verrett, but I don't know. I just was like, I like Verrett a lot. I was just scared every time he was out there that, he was going to step on a blade of grass wrong and tear something.
Something's going to fall off.
Yeah, and it's like so fragile,
Yeah.
So, like, I'm glad, like, I'm a huge C Ward fan now. That's going to be the next jersey I get after Trey Lance. But just because 35 is my number 2, so that plays a part in it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think, us having, Mosley on the other side and him back there is going to be huge, for that D line, for everything, like T.O. was saying.
Yeah, I think that I definitely think they're going to be over 10 interceptions. I think, you got to take into account Tarvarius Ward's coverage, but I think, like we were talking about, that pass rush. And I think Emmanuel Mosley he was aggressive last year. He was our best corner last year. And the reason why I think I look at it and I ask the question, do we lock him up early, is we can possibly get him for cheaper if we do it now. Like, after we get rid of Jimmy and there's some leftover cap space, do we lock him up now at a cheaper rate than after the season and he's had a Pro Bowl year and now all of a sudden, like, he's going to ask for some outlandish amount of money?
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't think that they do it. I think that they're just going to let it play out, and whatever happens, happens. But But yeah, I just wondered how everybody else thought about that. But as far as the interceptions go, yeah, I think they're going to be over. I think Hafunga is going to end up with like 5, just because of his instincts and how he kind of reads the play like before it even happens, and he just relies a lot on his instincts, and I think that quarterbacks are going to be forced to kind of throw the ball to spots, thinking their guys are going to be there because that pass rush is going to be coming, and because they're playing press, I think they're not going to go at Charvarius Ward and E-Man as much, and they're going to try and go in that middle of the field, and I think that's where Hafunga is going to be lurking. So, like, that's the way I say I'm really encouraged by Hafunga. Like, by all accounts, they said his coverage has looked. He went 1-on-1 versus Kittle the other day and won the rep. So, like, I know it's just practice, but I mean, when you can win a rep against Kittle, like that says a lot to me as far as like your physical nature and like what you're doing out there.
Yeah, I like Huff a lot.
Yeah, what's crazy too, other than our Leo positions that's going up for contract years, as far as the Ebelcoms, Turres, and stuff like that. If you look at our defense as a whole, Boza is in a contract year. Aziz is in a contract year. Dre Greenlaw, Jason Verrett, even though he is what he is, but Emmanuel Mosley and Jimmy Ward. So you got all these guys in contract years. They're going to be out there looking like dogs because they're all going to want to get paid.
Yeah,
just all of them. So that's just I mean, it's a great thing to know about and be like, man, you have all these dudes who are going out there to prove themselves, because that's a lot of money, man, that people are going to be trying to get. So, and then too, like 49ers Throwback said, I saw a video maybe on Wednesday, on Tuesday, of Jason Verrett. He was running full speed and he had like his hips look good, his feet, stuff like that.
Yeah.
If he's our nickel, oh my goodness. Yeah. If he's our nickel, I see about 15 interceptions for this secondary, because if he's healthy, he's probably our best corner. I don't know, because the way that Travarius Ward is looking, he's looking nice. But when Jason Verrett is healthy, we all know what he can do. Yeah. So if Emmanuel Mosley keeps up what he's playing, Travarius Ward's doing what he's doing, and if Jason Verrett by week 1 is healthy and he's our nickel, oh my goodness, dude! Like, this defense is going to be amazing, and I just see it being like top 3 for sure. I see my boy Roscoe came back in here in the comments, and I know, like, Hufanga.
We need to talk USC.
Yeah, Hufanga is one of those dudes, man. Like you said, his instinct, he has everything about him is perfect. As far as only thing that people worry about is his speed. His IQ is off the charts. His tackling ability is amazing. His intangibles, like, he has everything you want in a strong safety. But sometimes your instincts and IQ take over for your speed. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you can just be in the right place at the right time. So Hufanga's one of those guys where people are going to be like, Jaquiski who? You know what I mean? So he's going to be one of those guys, man. And, like you said, Peter, the fact that he was winning reps against Kittle, that's saying something, because Kittle's a 4.53 guy. And sometimes, you look at these 40 times, sometimes they're overblown. Because there's people who don't run fast until they're on the football field and it's game speed. Because you can tell somebody to line up. Real. Exactly. Some people can sit there and go to a combine pro day and run a 4.6, 4.7, but then when you look at them on the field, you're like, man, that dude's keeping up with a 4.4 guy. So, it is real having football speed. So I have high hopes for Hufanga. I think he's going to be amazing. The fact that if he gets good against the pass, because we don't know what he's going to do against the run. If he's good against the pass, I have no worries about him. And the fact that we always say the iron sharpens iron stuff, the fact that he's covering arguably the best tight end in football, it says a lot. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't forget that Huff was also the first guy out on the field every single day of training camp so far.
Yeah,
every single day.
Every day. Him and there was a couple of other guys that went out like right after him, but yeah, it's I think they just have such a good, like, we could talk about the defense on and on, like, because I would say they just have this team has such a good culture that these guys just play together so well. Like, it's like a fine, like, it's just an well-oiled machine. And a lot of them, the core, they've been playing together for a few years now, and like, and now but to TL's point, now we're gonna be a bunch of guys are coming up for contract years. They're not gonna sign everybody. Like we're gonna lose some people next
Right.
season.
Absolutely.
But I think that they need to make that's why we just got to go and win the Super Bowl this year.
Absolutely.
We got to take advantage. That's just the way it goes.
Yep.
But let's move on to the offensive side, real quick, and let's go to the wide receiver room. So you got now the Debo's back in the fold. We all happy about that.
Yeah.
And how dynamic is this group going to be? Ayuk has looked he's been making spectacular catches. So let's start off with how dynamic this group can be. What do you guys think?
I'd say they can definitely be top 5 wide receiver duo in the NFL between the both of them. And especially the way that they both have, different skill sets to where they complement each other great. And I think they both complement this offense very well. So, yeah, I would put them top 5 in the NFL.
What about you, TL?
Yeah, I agree. I'm expecting, I think Jamal said it earlier, and I totally agree. I think Ayuk's the best wide receiver on this team as far as like route running and tangibles and stuff like that. But I think Debo's obviously the best weapon. So as far as a wide receiver duo, I'm loving it. I heard Juwan Jennings has had some drops and stuff like that, but he'll clean that up. I'm not worried about it. Juwan Jennings is going to be a dog out there. Danny Gray, yeah. Danny Gray heard he was struggling a little bit too, that he was like a one-trick pony, but then somebody said that they surprised him and he was out there running routes, stuff like that. And that's one thing too. He's just going to have to get acclimated with, because at SMU was a lot of bubble screens and go routes. Wasn't much of a route tree that was ran there at SMU. So I have high hopes for our wide receiver and core. And then Ray McLeod, if he's your 4th or 5th receiver, we're doing something. But I think, going past the wide receivers, me and Moriah talk about this all the time, and I'm going to beat a dead horse about this. I want our offensive line so good and so in sync that George Kittle is not on that offensive line as a glorified offensive lineman. He is too special as a receiving tight end to be used as a blocker 70% of the time. I want him to be like a security blanket for Trey for underneath route, stuff like that, because there's no linebacker that can cover him and there's no DB that can outmuscle him. Let's just be honest here. You know what I mean? So if we can get some chemistry going with him and Trey, Debo and Trey, and we utilize all of our weapons, even with Kyle Juszczyk coming out of that backfield, man, this offense is going to be so dynamic that it's going to be hard to stop. We can honestly talk about this team being like a top 7 offense and then a top 3 defense when all said and done. And that's what I want, and that's a recipe for success. And that's, I think, like you said, I don't think we're outrageous and out of our minds talking like Super Bowl if everything goes right for us as far as people staying healthy. And like I said, I love George Kittle. I hate the fact that he blocks so much, because I told Moriah before, I get so jealous when I see Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce and Darren Waller out there catching 40-yard bombs and stuff like that, and Kittle's getting hit by 300-pound defensive linemen every play. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I love everything about this wide receiving core. I think we're going to keep 6. I heard Malik Turner's out there looking good, and so is Marcus Johnson. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be epic, man. So I can't wait.
Grant was on one of the spaces today saying Marcus Johnson probably ain't gonna make the team. But he just because how deep this wide receiver room is. Like, I mean, if you really think about it, you spoke to all the names like in this wide receiver room, and you think about it. So we got Debo, one of the most versatile wide receivers in the league. And then you got Ayuk emerging and making catches like he's been making in training camp. And on top of those two, now you got Kittle, like in the middle, able to really do anything that any tight end can do. Like he can do the same things that Andrews and Travis Kelce do. Like he could do all that stuff. Plus he can block. But to your point, Tino, I would rather not see him blocking as much. I want to see them using him to get him in space. But I think it's a possibility because of the threat of Debo, the threat of Ayuk, and then of course, and then you've got Trey throwing the ball now instead of Jimmy. I think that that's the key. It's always been the key for this wide receiver room. And like to your point, Danny Gray just what was it? Not today, but yesterday, he decided he was going to do his own Ayuk impression. Like he was sitting there making catches over people, and if he unlocks something and he starts to get a little bit of dogging with and coupling that with that speed, I mean, what? How do you guard this offense? Because if this is the thing, they're not going to air it out. They're going to still run the ball 30 plus times a game, and like so, you're gonna have to keep guys close to the line of scrimmage. How do you guard a team that has this many weapons and that has a quarterback that can throw the ball to like 60, 70 yards? Like it's I'm really just geeked out to see it all in. I just can't wait for this first preseason game. I know he's not going to have a lot of. He's probably only going to have one drive, but
Yeah.
but I just can't wait to see it. Like I just cannot wait to see it. But
Yeah.
I
And
wanted
Peter,
I wanted
yeah.
to speak on. Oh, go ahead, Teal.
No, I was going to say too. You know, you look at our wide receiving core. Like these are probably some of the most physical wide receivers in the NFL. You know what I mean? With Debo, Juwan Jennings, stuff like that. So the fact that now we got Ayuk, that showed he has some dog in him as well. So you got Brandon Ayuk, Debo, and Juwan Jennings. They set the standards for our other wide receivers who are going to make this team. You can't be out here soft and all this other stuff. Like we've come a long way from Dante Pettis. You know what I'm saying? So now we got receivers out there. So like if I'm Danny Gray and I'm looking at that dog and Debo Samuel and Ayuk, I have no choice but to come out there and perform and have that dog in me because they're setting the standards for our wide receiving core. So
Yeah, and while we're talking about the wide receivers, we got to talk about the fight. Like so, I mean, we're seeing some things out of some of our guys that we haven't normally seen. Like Warner, we always think of Warner as like the nice guy. He's always smiling, like all that kind of stuff, and he's been the guy, the well spoken on camera and all that. And then, but he got like, I mean, remember he said in last season that he had to get up in Trey's face and say, look, like you're gonna have to take some chances. He had to get in his face then. This off season, he chose Ayuk and he made it plain and clear that you know what, I am chirping at him because I'm trying to bring out the best in him. I love that type of leadership. It's old school and it's really it's in your face, and sometimes that's what guys need. They need a kick in the ass. Like so and I think that it's working. Like if you look at what happened with Ayuk, he's just been mossing people, including Travarius Ward. And the fight, like so if anybody didn't hear about the fight, Fred Warner decided to clothesline Marcus Johnson, and it was a pretty dirty play. And the guy, they know this guy making the team, like, it just made it that much worse. And then here comes, and then apparently from what Grant said, immediately after he did it, he looked right at Brandon Ayuk and basically like, "What you gonna do?" And here they all come, and him and Ayuk started going at it, and then it happened again, and they went at it a second time, and Kyle had to stop practice. But what do you guys think that this does for this locker room, and how do you see these guys' leadership styles evolving? I know you guys weren't prepared for this question.
No,
I
it's
just
okay.
decided to add it in because it just it happened yesterday.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. All three of us. Well, I can't speak for you two, but I will say all of us are in our 40s. And what I will say is I'm old school.
Not me,
You're not
thanks.
40? What are you,
No.
39?
Yeah.
39? Okay,
So
well,
shut up.
Okay.
well, close enough. Well, you look older than both of us, so it don't matter. But
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
Oh, come on now. Come on now.
You're not gonna mess with my girl. But anyway, no. What you call it? I have no issue with it at all. Like, have you guys ever seen that movie Glory Road? with the first.
Yeah.
So you remember when that the white guy? It's Moriah. If you never seen it, you got to watch it. It's about the first all black basketball team that won the champion. It's a true story. But anyway, there was this guy on the team, and they knew he was good, but he was out there acting kind of soft and wasn't showing his full potential. And this one center would kept bullying him and all this other stuff. And the coach went to his room one day and said, "Here's your suitcase. Just pack up your stuff." He's like, "Well, why, coach?" He's like, "You're not giving it your all out there, so you're going to have to go if you're not going to show me what you got." I feel like that's what kind of the approach Fred Warner's doing. I'm not saying towards Ayuk, but I think when you know somebody has it in them, it's like sometimes you need that little extra push. You need somebody to irritate you a little bit and get you uncomfortable to get that out of you. You know what I mean? So, somebody asked me on Twitter the other day, would you be mad if a coworker is pushing you every day to be better? I'm like, I can't say that I would. I mean, as long as they're doing it in a manner where, like, they're not being disrespectful, something like that. But you got to separate, like, work at the office and this is a football field. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if I'm out there and my teammates see that I have all this potential and I'm not fulfilling it, I have no issue with with some of the captains and stuff saying, "Hey, look, man, I'm gonna have to bring that fire out of you." So yeah, no issue at all. I mean, I'm glad that nobody got hurt. And I remember years ago when Steve Smith, shout out to Steve Smith Jr. That's my favorite wide receiver of all time from Carolina. I just like he had that dog in him. But I remember when him and Ken Lucas got into a fight and Steve Smith got too crazy and he broke that man's jaw. Like, I don't want that going on. I don't want that going on. But they make somebody uncomfortable a little bit and bring that dog out of them. I have no problems with that. So
yeah, I love it. Like, what do you got, Moriah?
Yeah, I have no problems with it either. Up until the point, I heard that they started throwing punches, and if you're throwing punches with a helmet on, like, that's pretty stupid. Like,
break your hands.
Like, you breaking hands and shit, then that's when I have a problem with it. But yeah, like, right before this happened, Fred Warner had just said in the presser that, like, he's doing this on purpose to Brandon because he knows he can be great. And, like, I'm the biggest Brandon Ayuk fan that you'll find, but, like, even I can admit, and I talked about this on our last show, that, Brandon hasn't lived up to the potential that, or where I thought he would be at this point, And so, like, everything Fred said, like, that's exactly how I feel too. So, if that's what it's going to take for us to see, and I was expecting before any of this happened for Brandon to have a great season already because he's put the work in. But, a great season can always be better. So if Fred's pushing him to be even better than what he was planning or going to be already, then, I'm all for it.
Yeah. I definitely think that we could be seeing a whole nother aspect of the offensive. Trey is somebody he can just throw the ball up to. Like, that adds a whole nother dimension to this offense. And I think we have a whole bunch of different kind of weapons, but at the same time, that's something that the 49ers haven't had in a long time. And I mean a long time, that they can just have a guy to throw the ball up to, like, and be physical at the catch point. So I love it. I love it. I love all of it. Like Teal said, I'm old school. I'm all about the physical nature of football, and that's what I love so much about this 49er team is that they are physicality and they play bully ball, and I love it. Like, but we're gonna move on real quick from the wide receivers to the running back room. This is gonna be our last topic. So, so we're gonna talk about the running back room. First thing I want to ask, does Hasty make this team?
No.
Like, because he's actually shown out in camp so far, and he's been looking really good catching passes from what I heard, and he's doing the things that it would take to make the team. But they've got all these young bucks behind him that have also been doing well. And like, so do you think? And we all heard. I don't know if you guys heard, but Jeff Wilson hurt again. Like,
is he?
Yeah, he hurt again.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like, I found that out today. So it's he's the one that I know. I'm almost positive he's gonna get cut. Like, I love his running style. I love Jeff Wilson as a player, but he cannot stay healthy, and I just don't think they can really depend on him unless they want to stash him. I don't even know if he's eligible to keep going to the practice squad. But but yeah. So do you think Hasty makes it? We'll start with there. Let's start with you, Moriah.
I'm saying no. Even before training camp, I've said that Hasty and Jeff Wilson wouldn't make the team. And it's not what that Hasty's doing anything bad or what Hasty's not doing. It's more of with Hasty a numbers game. There's just more skill that's got drafted in higher rounds above him, and unfortunately, even if Hasty is, which I heard that Trey Sermon's doing great anyways, but just sake for argument, I'll say, even if Trey Sermon was looking terrible in training camp and Hasty was looking great, they're going to give Trey Sermon a chance over Hasty because they spent a high draft round pick, on him. And, I just think that from everything that we've heard from Mason and, with Mitchell and Sermon and TDP being up there, I just think, there's no way that we're holding that many running backs. So I think that Hasty and Wilson are going to be the odd men out.
What do you about TTO?
Same. So with Hasty, I'm agreeing with Moriah. I think he's done. It sucks, and I think I read where I think you can be on a practice squad as long as you haven't done more than 4 years in the NFL. So I think Hasty is eligible for practice squad, but Jeff Wilson is not. So he'll have to be cut and go through waivers and stuff like that. Jeff Wilson, I felt like he had a chance because, and I heard, that's funny you say he's hurt. Well, not funny, but that's crazy you tell me that he's hurt because I heard a couple of days ago that he started with the ones and he was looking pretty good, that he finally looked healthy. He was catching the ball great out the backfield, which that Jeff Wilson can catch. Like he has good hands. But I felt like Jordan Mason is like the new Jeff Wilson. Like
that's my guy.
They're both bigger backs. They're both bigger backs. You got Jordan Mason that's like 4 years younger. So that's, like you said, it's a numbers game and it's a young man's league. You know what I mean? So if it comes down to it, and like Moriah said, even if Trey Sermon or TDP, if both of them were both out there looking like crap, they're going to have a pass because Kyle, to a fault sometimes, he's real loyal to his draft picks. You know what I mean? Like you see how long he held on to Jalen Hurd and he tried to give Dante Pettis a chance and stuff like that. So he's loyal to his draft picks and he wants to prove that who he picked can work in his system. So I think he's gone. I think when we did our roster breakdown, I had us keeping 4 running backs, and I think Mitchell, obviously, I think Mitchell, TDP, and Sermon are safe. I think Jeff Wilson and Jordan Mason will be fighting for that 4th spot. And ultimately, I had Jeff Wilson, but if he's hurt again, it was probably going to go to Jordan Mason, just that probably out of default and stuff. But Hasty, I don't think he makes his team.
Yeah, it's they had posted. I wanted to make sure that I was right on that, so I looked at. Yeah, he's been missing practice. I guess he's been missing practices with injury, like being injured. Like I just don't think that they can count on him. Like unfortunately, and I mean it sucks because he brings a really great mentality for his running back. But you mentioned my guy, Jordan Mason. Like that's my guy. I think that he is the next undrafted guy. The long line of undrafted free agent running backs that the 49ers seem to just find. That's going to be the next one to blow up. And I think that Jordan Mason has looked good all through camp. You can't keep hearing his name, which is really which really doesn't happen in training camp that often when you're talking about an unrestricted or an undrafted free agent. So especially when you've got a Trey Sermon, a TDP, and Elijah Mitchell on the roster, these writers are still finding ways to mention Jordan Mason. So I just think that he definitely is going to make the roster. I'm wondering how they're going to fit this man's role into the team because I have a feeling if you play him in preseason and he shows out, you can't put him on the practice squad because somebody's just going to take him. But I guess they've got some new mechanic where you can save a guy this year.
Yeah, you can save up to 4 players every week.
Yeah. So he might be one of those. But have you heard anything about Jordan Mason, Moriah?
Yeah, I've heard the most about him. That's why I think for sure he has one of those roster spots. By all accounts, he's been the running back that all eyes have been on. So, yeah.
So yeah, it's I just think it's another part of the offense that is stacked on his team, and because I did hear TDP had a couple of fumbles yesterday,
Yeah.
but they said he's looked good running the ball, and I think that's really what we're looking at. But you know how Kyle feels about people that fumble, so he
Yes.
might
Get in that doghouse real quick.
yeah, real quick, like but yeah, I think it's Elijah Mitchell's job to lose, and it's going to be. But Trey Sermon has been looking good. You
Yeah,
got
he
Jordan
has.
Mason. It's. I mean, I guess it's just pick your poison at this point. But any. So I guess we're at the end of the show. Any guys that on this team that you guys think might surprise people in preseason? Any one player you can think of that people need to look out for?
That's a good question. So I know now they've changed it to where now there's only three preseason games instead of four, right? Because usually that game three is usually what is like when all the starters play for a little bit longer, stuff like that. So, um, I'm gonna say Trey Sermon. I think he's gonna come out and do his thing and show people that, like, look, I know I didn't do my thing in 2022, but I'm back healthy now. I'm in shape. He's looking good. And it's funny how we look at how Kyle has turned a leaf on his running backs. He used to kind of like them little smaller running backs and the Jerick McKinnons, the Matt Breidas and stuff like that. Now he's getting backs that are a lot more physical. Like Jordan Mason, 6'1", 225, and then you got Trey Sermon, 230. TDP's like 230. Then you got Elijah Mitchell, who's probably our smallest back at like
He gained
215.
weight.
And he gained weight. Yeah, me and Moriah saw that at the draft party. Like, he even told us he gained weight purposely because the NFL is from taking so many hits. So he's gotten bigger. So yeah, and he's probably our smallest back out of all of them. So yeah, I'm liking how Kyle's having these backs that are more physical, and hopefully they can all stay healthy, because we've all know that we've had a history with injuries at that position. Like, that position just cannot stay healthy for us. Hopefully this year breaks the trend. So yeah, I think that Trey Sermon's going to go out there and have some nice games for us and show people why they traded up for him last year in the third round. So
Who's your player, Moriah?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the running back as well, but I'm going to go with TDP. I've been a huge TDP believer since they drafted him, and I'm not going to change now. So yeah, I do agree though that Trey Sermon could definitely go out there and have himself some games. And it'll just be kind of interesting to see how they spread that time out between them all, who will get, the run and whatnot. But even if it isn't in preseason, I just think that TDP is going to be a hell of a back.
Hey, Peter, before you go on, I'm going to laugh, but tell Moriah, you've come a long way, because on draft day when we picked him, me and you were both pretty pissed off.
Oh my God.
We're like, a running back? Why?
Like, I was like, what in the world are we doing?
Yeah,
we got centers out there. Like, we had safeties out there.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what are we doing? Like,
I just don't. As jail felony says, I was hotter than fish grease.
Yeah.
That got to be hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I was not happy with the pick to say the least. Like, and I think we talked about it when I had you on the show the other time. Was that I had to sit back and look at what they did and figure out what the plan was, because like I had my plan of what we needed.
Yeah.
and what everybody was saying that we needed as far as like safeties and center and offensive lineman, and they just didn't go the same direction that I think we all thought that they were going to go. But I go back to what I said back then, is that we always have to remember that they never do what we think that they're going to do. But it seems like during this regime, it always works out somehow.
Yeah.
And we always do. It somehow works out to our advantage. So that, like, they've amassed a really good roster over Lynch's time here, and I think that this is a team that's going to contend for years, and that's really all you can ask for from your GM, is to put you in a position to contend for years. And I think that they've done that, and I think that we're going to be in the mix. But my player is going to be I'm going to say Jordan Mason. I think he's going to get the most run in preseason. I think out of everybody, he's going to be the one getting a whole half of work, because he's going to be running with the threes. And I think that he's going to get a chance to really show what he's capable of and being able to catch the ball out of the backfield. The only hindrance, and because I think that the what's behind Trey Lance is not going to look good in preseason. I don't think Sudfeld's going to look good. I don't think that that Brock Purdy's going to look good.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just think that they're going to lean on the running game, and I think that Jordan Mason is going to be a beneficiary.
Hey, can I give you another one too, Peter?
Yeah, for sure.
So here's my one I have on defense that kind of people have been talking about him a little bit, but I just have a feeling, if he's healthy, that he's going to surprise some people. I'm going to go Tariq Castro-Fields.
Yes.
I just have a feeling, I remember watching him at Penn State, and he had some injury issues and stuff like that. But, he can play, I think, both safety and corner. Yeah. But, man, he's 6'1", about 205, and he runs in the 4.3 range and stuff like that. And, for us to get him where he was, because he was projected to go third round, but he fell to the fifth because of his injuries and stuff like that. But I have a feeling, him out there training with Charvarius Ward and Jimmy Ward and all
these DBs and stuff he moved up on the depth chart. Too.
Yeah, exactly. So I just have a feeling he's going to get him and Samuel Womack will get a lot of burn in preseason, and Demo too. But I just think that Tariq Castro-Fields just has that. I think out of all those guys, he has the most ability and probably the most upside and for sure the most athletic. So yeah, I'm going with Tariq Castro-Fields to also be somebody on the defensive side of the ball who I think can go out there and excel.
All right, I know you got a defensive person, Moriah.
I'm gonna have to go with Huff. I know we talked about it a lot earlier, but that's the guy I'm gonna stick with.
Nice.
That's my guy too. I'm really all about Huff right now. The more I hear about him and his improvement and all that stuff, I'm all about Huff too. So, yeah, but I mean, if I had to pick a young guy, I would say on defense, I would say look out. But I would say I think he's going to get a lot of run as Drake Jackson. He's going to get a lot of run in this preseason because, like I said, Kyle doesn't like to play rookies during the season, so I'm sure he's going to give him a lot of burn in the preseason.
Yeah.
See what he's got. So Drake Jackson might be that guy. But hey, I really appreciate both of you coming on such short notice. My last couple of weeks of my show has been kind of been a whirlwind a little bit, because of technical issues and all the other stuff. But yeah, you guys really came through like a champ at the last minute, and I really appreciate you guys coming on. Next week we're supposed to have we're going to try Treyway again, but yeah, you guys, it was an awesome show. I loved having you guys on. And why don't you tell them one more time where they can catch your show, maybe what time they normally can see you guys.
Your turn, Moriah.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. Anytime you need us, we're here. And you can find us on YouTube, 49Faithfullee Pod, anywhere you get your podcast as well. And right now we don't really have a set schedule. We're kind of all over the place because TL's
it's my fault.
Crazy. So yeah.
So just to let people know, I started doing a real estate class because I'm going to start investing into buying apartment complexes and renting them out and stuff like that. So
money.
Yeah, so I'm doing that, and then work's been crazy because it's budget season right now. So we're getting off. I told you before, I'm an HOA manager, so I manage communities and stuff like that. So we're getting their budgets together and stuff like that. So it's just been crazy for me, but hopefully it'll start slowing down here in a bit. So that's why our schedule's kind of been hit and miss. We're still doing shows consistently, though. We're doing them every week. We just don't have a set day right now because of my schedule. So
yeah, I set a day, but it just never seems to happen. That day, but yeah, like I said, I appreciate you guys having on. It was a great show. I love talking football with you guys, and girl. And the next week I will be on like when we get closer to the season, to the actual like season, then I'll probably start ramping it up to two shows a week. I haven't decided how I'm going to work it out yet. I was doing that at the end of last season, so I think I'm going to do that again. But it's going to be trying to put people's schedules together. But thank you all for watching today. Thank you all the people in the chat, like all the Niner faithful out there. You guys really showed out in the chat today. And it is I can't say how blessed I am, like, to have all the new subscribers, all the people following me on Twitter, and I really appreciate all the love that you guys give on a regular basis. So I really wanted to say that, but yeah, I will see you guys next week. And once again, thank you to Moriah and TL for coming on. But we will see you next time on Niner Fanatic Podcast. But as always, go Niners.
Go Niners.
Go
You guys have a good
Niners.
evening.